I want to thank Maddie for all of her help getting it set up and the registration. If you need any questions today, you can reach out to either Maddie or myself. We can help you. Direct message for our virtual attendees or send an email. So please excuse like my congestion. I have had it pretty much like years now at this point in time, and nothing seems to help it. So I apologize if I sound terrible. It's not my best, but we're here. So today we have a full agenda, and we should stick to our schedule pretty closely. There's not too many updates, just Moab will be our next quarterly SWAVO training, and that is going to be the last weekend in March, the last Thursday in March. The Crime Victims Conference is opening, will be the last weekend in April. And registrations for both of those should come out just right after the first year. So watch for them in January. We'll also be hosting a 40-hour academy in the end of January too. So if you have new advocates immediate to that, watch for the save the date. One other thing I wanted to announce is still we have the Resource Connect. If you have not had a chance to look at that yet, it is on the UOBC website. And you can, I would search to see if your agency's part of that Resource Connect. And if it's not, there's a little tab at the bottom of that website that says for suggestions or edits, click here and go ahead and enter that in. Or you can talk to Hildegard as well. So that's on our website. Also on our website, we now are posting our recordings of our SWAVOs on our YouTube channel. So that's pretty fun. We only have 5 subscribers, which is a little bit sad. I showed it to my kids that I had a YouTube channel, and they pointed that out very quickly that I was not viral because we only had 5 subscribers. So if you can like and subscribe, that'd be great. But if you ever need to go back and watch any of the recordings, they're there. If you have volunteers or new advocates that need training on a specific topic, they're there and you can watch them. So today we will be recording a couple of our presentations. We are not going to record our panel because we had a survivor who was going to speak, and I just want to respect that decision not share that story. But she called in sick this morning. She has a sick baby, so we're not going to have our panel. We will have our panel, but we will not have our survivor as part of that. So I think we'll go ahead. Does anyone else in the chat have any announcements, or is there any announcements in the room that we want to point out? No, it's pretty early. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and just get started. Our first presenter is Chris Palmer. Chris is with Utah Courts, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about their new initiative that they have started with. I just learned about, but I feel like it's pretty neat because I'm going to let him tell the story about how he was sitting in a meeting and how it came to SWAVO. So I'll turn the time over to Chris.
Thank you.
Chris.
So like I said, my name is Chris Palmer, and I'm actually the Director of Security for the state court system. But also I am the staffer to the state's Judicial Council Mental Health Initiative. I'll briefly talk about the Mental Health Initiative and why I'm standing in front of you today to talk to you about this. I have 85 slides. No, actually, I don't have any slides. So I'm going to talk to you about it. So the Mental Health Initiative was born out of the state courts partnership with the National Center for State Courts to develop a diversion program for people that are picked up for low-level offenses, which would normally end up in incarceration when there's clearly a mental health component to this individual. And ideally, when this system is fully integrated across the state, our law enforcement officers, when they make contact with somebody, if they believe that there's a mental health component to it, they can offer to take this person to the diversion program versus taking them into jail, where we often know that treatment probably won't be as good or as fast as it takes for a while. So when we started this initiative back in early October, I came on board, and I'll tell you a little bit about my history. I'm a retired law enforcement officer for 20 years, and I worked for the Administrative Office of the Courts, and I sat through the very first meeting And the first thought that came to my mind is a lot of times these individuals who are picked up have victims of their crimes. And I asked the question the very first time between our judges, our mental health treatment providers, and our law enforcement partners, how we were going to integrate the views and or the concerns of victims into mental health treatment and diversionary programs. Because the first thing I thought of was, what happens when somebody is a victim of a crime, finds out that the person that victimized them got to go to a diversion program for treatment versus being adjudicated before. And this was a major issue for me coming from a law enforcement perspective, because oftentimes when I was on the street, I would find somebody that was clearly in a mental health crisis who victimized somebody, and I didn't have a choice. I wanted to take this person to get treatment, to help them out, but I had no choice but to take them to jail where they weren't going to receive the treatment. Now, the courts do have a post-adjudication treatment court system. So how many of you guys have heard of drug court? How many of you guys have participated as victim advocates in drug court? Okay, and that was the same thought I had for the diversion program. So the reason I'm here in front of you today is to kind of talk about, we have developed teams in each judicial district. So we have 8 districts in the state here, geographically separated. Most of you know what district you're in, right? Yeah. I want to reach out to you to connect you to the stakeholder team meetings for our mental health initiative at the beginning of this project. So we have your voices as victim advocates in the beginning of this process. What I don't want to happen is to have the courts come out and have our treatment providers say, this is the great path we're on, we're going to make all of these things happen. And at the very end, have our victims come forward and say, what about my voice? What choice do I have when the person who victimizes me gets dropped off at a treatment center versus being adjudicated for the crime against me? Because the voice of the victim is very important for this, and they should have voice on whether or not this individual is diverted to treatment or diverted to the normal adjudication process. So I kind of am open to questions for you because we're at the very beginning stages of that. And I also want to tell you, I have Chris Palmer rookie cards up here, so you can pick them up at any time or virtually. Okay, you put them online for me. Thank you very much. It's in the Google folder. You can reach out to me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have no friends. I have no life. And you're going to go back to whatever training you have today, and you're going to think, man, this is a great initiative. How do I figure out who my mental health initiative team, stakeholder team is in my district? And as a staffer, I'm going to know that. So reach out to me, and I will put you in contact. So that way you have a seat at that next meeting to sit with the judge, the mental health treatment providers, and the law enforcement officials in those areas to talk about the voice of the victim when it comes to these things. So if you guys have questions, you can, I guess, virtually send it to me, or you can raise your hand. You guys don't see this, everybody's sitting in the back of the room. That's what happens when you come in early. So, any questions?
I do have a question.
Michelle?
Are you guys doing anything like preventative? So like if families are, generally if they live with someone that has mental illness, they can kind of start to sense like we're building up that.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of preventative things you have to wait for?
No, you don't have to wait for a crime to occur. Anytime that we would normally have a law enforcement intervention, or if an individual feels a person is candidate's not the right word, for mental health intervention, our state has set aside mobile intervention teams whose whole sole purpose in every county is to be on scene or to help out. So for example, if you believe this is a mental health crisis, and the individual is kind of going that further downward spiral for whatever reason, you can engage the mobile health treatment team. And we're also doing the training for law enforcement too. So when law enforcement gets called, because we all call 911 no matter what, right? Cat in the tree, baby stuck in the car, cake failed on Thanksgiving, we just call 911, right? Now we're training our law enforcement first responders when they show up on scene to go, this is a mental health issue. It's clearly not a law enforcement issue. And then that way they can engage those mobile assessment teams. And I'll tell you guys a story. One of the first meetings we had last week, we had law enforcement from some of the rural counties, Kane and Garfield, go, we don't have a mobile health team. And actually they did. They didn't know they had a mobile health team that was there to help them out. So we were putting people together, and that last part of that equation is having the victim advocates be able to say, hey, we have contact with these people too. We want to know what options we have available for mental health treatment. And I'll tell you the good story. Davis County has built a center, an intake center. So that way when cops and law enforcement become in contact with somebody who's probably in mental health crisis, they can ask the person, would you rather go to this mental health treatment, and they can self-enroll into this. And 24 hours, they can make the assessment, get the treatment they need. And if it requires further assistance, that mental health intake center can get them that and get them travel there. Or they can get them under, in that 24 hours, they can get them stabilized and get them a better home situation. So oftentimes this is a better situation, especially if you have somebody who needs to be removed from a situation like domestic stuff, a domestic situation. We can send them to the mental health treatment facility and they're there for 24 hours. And at the end of that 24 hours, they can have a better home situation. They have 24 hours to kind of get this stuff together and be out and get treatment. It's a good question though. Thank you. Yes. Any other good questions? I have to have 2 more good questions where I don't get paid.
No question. Can you like take a step or 2 closer to the owl?
Better?
But hopefully.
Better?
Let's try. You can see them up there.
You see me?
No, so it's,
Over to that.
it's the microphone. Some
Oh,
people
sorry.
are having a little bit of trouble.
Better that way. Another question?
You can, does anyone have a question? I'm just saying, if the room asks a question, will you repeat it?
Oh, okay. And I don't know what the last question was.
I typed it in the chat already.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So you said that for in every county, there's a POC listing or a job.
And the question is there a POC listing for the mental health intervention team, the mobile mental health intervention team for every county? There is. I don't have it currently on me right now, but I do know the person at the state who's in charge of that, and I can connect you to and can do it that direction. Sometimes it's through a commercial provider, like Bear River Mental Health covers a couple counties at the north end, 4 counties down in Kane, Garfield, sometimes the eastern part of Washington. They're covered by a commercial provider that they receive grant money for. And that's the other thing with this. We are also working with state legislators to increase the funding for this purpose too. So we can have separate funds set aside, because a lot of you guys are familiar with GRI, how well GRI works, right? We're trying to prevent that from happening. We're really trying to lean forward to find the grant money and the funding from the state to pay for these things, because the same mental health treatment who's going to be involved in GRI can also do our mental health diversion program. So, you know, it just doesn't work like that. And like I said, we're building well, the Huntsman Center is actually building an intake center for Salt Lake County. There's one in Davis County. There's one in Washington County. And a lot of times there's cross compatibility. So for example, in the judicial districts, if we have an individual who's housed in Davis County and he commits a crime in Weber County, well, that crime has to be adjudicated in Weber County. But now we have an agreement where we can move that case intra-district down to Davis County so this person can seek treatment in Davis and still have their case adjudicated in Weber. Make sense? It's all kind of stuff like that. That's a very good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Who are the teams composed of?
Oh, it's a great question. He asked, who would the teams compose of? Right now, it's going to have a judge from the district, either a district court or a justice court judge. It's going to have the prosecution for that district in Oak County. It's going to have law enforcement officials, either the county sheriff, a majority of the large urban center police departments will have a seat at these stakeholder meetings. A couple administrators from the court, me, and hopefully our victim advocates in those areas will join these teams to be able to have a voice in it. But right now, we are still forming the teams. 6th district, that's the central part of the state, Kane and Garfield and Wayne and Stampede. They have the most active group right now. Salt Lake County second in the 3rd district. And then 2nd district has a pretty active group, but the other ones are kind of forming as they go. That's why I'm going to get you guys involved as early as possible, before a lot of plans are made up without having the victim voice. Good question, thank you. Any other questions? And you'll have a 6th subscriber to your website here shortly. So I'm going to subscribe. Yay.
Thank you.
So if there's other questions, I want to thank you guys for your time. What you guys do is very important. The voice from my time in law enforcement, and even now recently, I was telling Michelle that I have become a victim of crime recently. Somebody threatened to kill me. I know it's surprising, I'm a nice guy. And so I had a chance to interact with my victim advocate in the city I live in, and it was a very nice experience. When she asked me the question, do you need anything? And I instinctively answered no, But then I asked my question, do I really need anything? So I really appreciate what you guys do, and that experience for me, sitting there at the table when we talk about this mental health diversion initiative, was the voice in the back of my head. It was the victim advocate from my city who said, you know, do you need anything? And that's why I'm here today in front of you guys. So if you guys think of questions online, my contact information, Maddie's got it available for you. Like I said, there's a stack of Chris Palmer rookie cards for people in the room. I look forward to hearing from you. This is the beginning of our conversation. As you guys have questions about this stuff and you want to get linked up with the mental health initiative team in your county or district, send me an email and I will hook you up and do the personal thing and give you the Chris Palmer seal of approval. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for everything you guys do. This is a very good project that I'm just passionate about for you guys to be involved in. So thank you. Don't use these cards to get out of jail. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tom.
Hey, thank